So you mentioned going to the library, interacting with this computer to get the kind of information on careers you wanted. Was that your first experience with computers, or what followed that in terms of as you start looking at computers as a tool, very specifically, personally?
Yeah, I think 2 years before that. Now, this would have been 1980. I'm in sixth grade in 1980. My mom bought an Apple computer. I think it was the Apple IIe, and it was a day that will live in infamy because when she brought it home, she and my dad had an extended discussion about how much it cost. So I'm listening, so I hear it cost about $5,000. And I remember my dad saying, that's like buying a car. And then I found out that my mom had actually financed it. She was paying for that computer like she was buying a car, but she bought it because she wanted to learn how to use it. She wanted us to learn how to use it. And it was an Apple computer, so it catered to the wonderful user experience even back then. And I found it easy to use for the things I was able to do. It had a program called AppleWorks, and AppleWorks had a word processor, straightforward enough. Now, instead of me writing my essays and tracing them on lineless paper with my pen, I can type them. Okay, I like that. It had a database. Okay, I don't know what a database is, but I like to make organized lists of collections. I like to write down all the cassette tapes that I have. I like to write down all the books that I have, and then I find out, okay, well, that's what databases are, man. It's a collection of organized information, organized related information. That's what a database is. And then it had a spreadsheet, and it would be years before I actually understood what a spreadsheet was, but what it looked like was a combination of a calculator and a word processor. I can see that, so I can be that. I used AppleWorks all the time. It also had a compiler, some type of compiler. I don't know what it was called, where you could write code. And I tried that a couple of times, and I said, okay, this is Greek to me. I'm not sure I like this idea of writing code. I think I'm going to stick to AppleWorks. AppleWorks allows me to be productive and confident because I understand what it is. I can conceptualize what it is. I can tell somebody else what it is. This programming stuff, I'm not so sure about. So that was my introduction to computing. And then I kind of figured out nobody around us really had computers. Nobody at my school had computers except the school itself. And they were computers that we didn't really have access to. The only access I had to the career computer was through the librarian. The librarian would collect your interests on a sheet of paper. She would go and type everything into the computer, and she would bring you back the information that you are provided. Now, I look at experiences like that now, and I say, oh man, my librarian was the gatekeeper. And I like to remove gatekeepers wherever I find them. I didn't know that she was the gatekeeper back in those days, but I know how to recognize gatekeepers now.
Mm. And so what did you do knowing she's a gatekeeper keeping folks at bay or deciding who gets access and who doesn't? How did you use your access to the computer early on when your mom got you that Apple IIe? What did you build with it? You talked about some of the programs that you used. What was the next step in terms of that getting you towards, this is a way to create something or get you to express what you like to do, what your strengths are, some of those things?
Well, the first database I made was a career database. The reason why I would complete the survey in different ways was because I knew it would provide me different perspectives on career options, and I'd bring those sheets of paper home and I'd put them all in my little database. It wasn't a fancy database, but it allowed me to organize and aggregate everything that I was getting from the librarian as she handed it to me one sheet at a time. I kept all those sheets, came home and typed all that stuff in. And then one day I sat down and read it. I said, oh, I can actually see the collections, the related interests, how some of these interests all kind of aligned around math, science type things, like the system analysts, the system engineers. Oh, those are very related to engineering. And I would learn some years after that they were very related. But all of that, I was introduced to kind of analyzing and synthesizing all of that by just bringing it home and putting it in a database. And I was hooked after that. It's like databases I like this. I like this.